In this video, I'm taking a look at Dory. This is a player who just recently got 10th in the solo cash cup. This is his first time making earnings. He's been messaging me for a while and he's been using the solos mastercard to actually get this placement. So I'm taking a look at his games here. And the one thing that I looked at as I was going through a couple of his wins is just how inconsistent he is. As you can see here, he's having multiple games where he's just playing for like 20 minutes and then he's dying with very little placement points. You can see here 37th place, 20th place, right? 55th, 44th, 32nd. There's a lot of games like that, as well as some wins sprinkled in there. So I'm taking a look at what he is doing incorrect in these wins. There's probably also mistakes that are getting punished in these other games. I'm talking about things in terms of fight positioning, when he's actually going ahead and taking those fights, mid-game rotates, endgame rotates like fourth zone, as well as mistakes first moving. These are very simple things that you guys can fix that will help you place more consistently and also should help Dory place more often in the money and help get his earnings up. Alright, let's get straight into this. We're looking at this 8 kill win and this 5 kill win with a couple mistakes he's making in both games. Okay, so now we're kind of past that first stage. You can see here Dory's up on 52 points. He's doing pretty well. He's already had to win this cash cup and he's kind of just playing out the middle of his cash cup, trying to go for some good games after this. And one thing that I think is really important to consider as you play out a solo cash cup is thinking, is this fight worth it for me? Do I actually need to take it? So let's go and take a look at his loadout here. So as you can see, he's got peppers. He's already used one to actually chase this guy and commit into the fight. He's got max minis, max speed, so he's good loot for fighting, but he didn't necessarily have the best movement. Peppers obviously are good movement, but they're not really the ideal. You want to have a pad when it goes into endgames. And also you've got to consider here, he's basically fighting for this other player's loot in terms of movement and all his extra heals. So as you can see, this guy's got medkits, he's got a harpoon, he's got minis as well in case the fight takes a while. And also you've got to consider the fact that he's fighting for the loot in this area. As you can see, all these buildings are completely unlooted. There's still chests around here. There's also a bunch of pads just sitting around in this area that he could be fighting for as well. As you can see, you've got to consider that. He's not just going to an area that's already been looted and fighting a guy who's shambles, who's not going to give him anything apart aside from a point. This fight is probably worth taking. However, Dory does make some mistakes with his fighting that makes this like last about 2 minutes long. So you can see here, first thing, it's just piece control, right? As this guy is coming up towards him, you need to be getting this high wall up. It's really predictable. Just get that wall up. He can't go anywhere apart from maybe go sideways. At that point, you drop him down and you get 100 pump and you can probably kill him within that first like 10 seconds of the fight starting, since this guy isn't too good. Gets a chop out, and again here, he's not looking for go for a pump. Instead, he's just swinging his pickaxe in the air, gets into a full box with the guy, but the guy just gets out. Because again, he's just kind of swinging his pickaxe and not really focused on piece control and the fight as quick as possible. A couple small things. Honestly, one thing I'd recommend for Dory or any players who are watching this who kind of have an issue with your fights dragging on for too long is just look at how you could get extra piece control as you're fighting someone. That is the biggest difference maker on how long you can basically reduce the fight time by just going for piece control as you go for a shot or before you go for a shot. Blend fights a lot quicker. So you can see here he ends up burning through all of his bigs while fighting this other player. This is a nice counter peek he does here actually. This other guy edits open insta and he just goes ahead and straight away counter peeks, so he gets a little bit more damage advantage onto the guy. Ends up burning through another big, as you can see. And this is the thing, like these fights do take a while in solo cash cups if you don't prioritize piece control as you initiate them. You can see here he does the right thing, probably should set up with the wall here, actually blocking off, which he does in a second. Now this guy runs straight out, comes into his box, and he gets the kill finally. Honestly, might not be in the best fight choice, but the fact this is completely unlooted makes it worthwhile. So you can see he gets harpoon from it, he's able to loot up, didn't really use that many mats in the fight, just needs to farm up a little bit of metal as the rest of his mats, and now he's in a good position where he can just get really good movement and farm up and kind of chill for the rest of his mid game. Okay, so this next fight, this is honestly one that I would recommend avoiding. At this point, he's got good movement. All he needs to go ahead and do is just farm and then get a good position on zone, probably take a car and play endgame, and he'd probably have better, more consistent games, but lucky enough he's able to win it. However, he does play some pretty weird angles in this fight. And again, as you go into the fight, just consider what you're actually doing in that fight. You don't really get anything to gain from this unless you kill this guy very quickly and he's got a lot of bigs for you. You probably won't gain anything. So as you can see here, he plays a pretty funny angle in a second. Again, this is just very simple things in terms of fixing fighting mistakes. So you can see he does a bottom left-hand peek, which works for now, misses his right-hand peek in a second, and then he crouches into a left-hand peek. Never ever go into left-hand peek, obviously, and never ever crouch into a left-hand peek as well, because you'll just move so slowly, and this guy just lands up a really easy trade shot. He's able to full heal up in a second though, ends up burning through all of his heals again, just in one single fight. As you can see here, nice counter peek on this floor right there. Now he goes up and takes height, plays kind of a weird angle again in the second here, where he's kind of just committing into the box from a weird way. And this guy gets another bit of chunk on him, as you can see. But lucky enough, here he's able to finish the fight. Gets a tag on this guy just doesn't build for some reason, and then he finally gets the kill. Again though, you've got to consider what you're gaining from this fight. At this point, he's just gone through a big, maybe he gets one flop out, which would be sort of worthwhile. He's just down on HP, this is all looted at this point. He's not really got anything to gain from this spot. Can't even buy minis. And he's just put himself in a worse situation. Lucky enough, he's able to get some more loot as he rotates through here, but a lot of times in more stat games, this won't be available to you, and you're not really getting that best of luck with it. Okay, this is from a different game, but Dory plays this a lot better. As you can see, he's just looted up retail, he's rotated early first zone, got a good spot, kind of predict where second zone is going to pull, and on second zone, he's kind of in a chilling spot as well. Now he's got max distance third zone, and it's going through a lot of different people, as you can see. It's a lot of congestion that he's going to have to rotate through, so let's go ahead and see how he's actually able to rotate this fairly cheap. One thing that you need to consider as he's rotating in here, obviously a little bit Storm Surge in this game, is the fact that he needs to make sure he tries to maintain his good match situation, and you can oftentimes just think of trading off your shield, as I mentioned in previous videos in the Solos Masterclass, trading off your shield for saving your mats and saving your movement. So what you think he's going to do is just barrel it into zone. The cars are completely bugged in replay at the moment. So as you can see there, he actually just ended up gunning it straight with the car, managed to get that whole distance in just because he had a black car with wheels on it from earlier. And the only downside of that is he could possibly end up wasting a little bit of shield as he gets tagged up on the way. Ends up not happening in this case, and he's actually in a really good position. Center third, he gets elevated up on this little alien base thing in the middle here, so he can go for some more surge tags, 50-50 zone. Again, in these solo cash cuts, which champs only, there is probably going to be storm surge in quite a few of your games, so make sure you stay on top of it in terms of getting tags and not just full AFKing like a lot of people in this lobby are doing. Coming into fourth zones, a couple minor mistakes I think Dory makes that might cost him in later games. Obviously, not all of your mistakes in Fortnite are going to result in you getting killed or even getting punished for them, since a lot of times you can just kind of get away with things. But getting in the habit of making more consistent game plan choices just results in better performance overall and across multiple different tournaments. You can see here he gets a nice timing rotate, that was very nice, and he gets into the position kind of on low ground fourth. Again, here is a little bit scuffed to get on a high layer. Probably going on top of these other people, even going over towards him, might even be worse, just because there's loads of people there. It's very easy to get boxed for. So one thing he does quite nicely is just get in and get into a calm position. Having boxed up in brick, and at this point I think brick is a really bad call. It's very easy for one of your walls just to get sprayed, and this guy right next to him boxed up in brick, and again just gets server sprayed by a load of different people and gets hit down to 1 HP. And that very easily could have happened to Dory, just because of the fact that this guy's in fresh built brick right next to him, and the exact same thing happened to him. Again though, he gets away with it completely fine, doesn't get punished, doesn't really make any bad peaks, just does safe window peaks, so he gets away with it. So coming on to 50-50, one big mistake that I see people making when it comes to a close rotate like this, where you can basically just run it in, is they try to do exactly that. They try to run in one go, they end up using a lot of mats to maybe get beamed from behind or beamed through in front, and they kind of just put themselves in a worse spot. But one thing Dory does is really nice, is just have a lot of patience here. He lets the players do the rotate for him, as you can see. The other players are trying to rotate early, they end up getting beamed right next to him, they end up building loads, and they have to burn through all their hills, where he's just chilling in this box and playing pretty slow. Okay, so as you can see here, he's basically let all these players around him rotate. There's still a couple lagging behind him, but he's playing full Edge of Storm on the right-hand side, where there's no real risk of anybody running up behind him. He's also pretty cautious of blocking off his back, as you can see there. At this point, he's going to go ahead and just take a pause. Pausing your rotates is so overpowered, and it's something I see no people doing. Just pausing your rotates, let you go ahead and establish the things that are going on in front of you, right? Make sure you wait for these people to tarp in, let them get into their boxes, make them chill, make sure there's nobody else running around you, make sure you let these other people around you hit the pad so you don't get pumped in the back. All very useful things to do that just come from pausing just for like 5 seconds on the rotate. And as you can see there, he gets a perfect pad in, none of these players are looking. Gets onto this guy's build. Again here, probably use metal, doesn't really make too much of a big of a deal, but just make sure you get the habit of using metal next to this guy, and he's completely chilling, and his mats are still really good, and didn't get tagged once during that rotate. Okay, going into endgame, let me cover a few mistakes that Dory is making. I'm not trying to critique him too much as a player, but these are kind of frequent mistakes that I see not the best players, and it's obviously Dory's first earnings, getting 10th, that he is making. So okay, so first thing here is just not trying to recycle a pad when you probably should be. He's got really good heals, doesn't matter if he gets tagged up too much. So what he's going to go ahead and do is just do a wide edit, trying to get some surge. This is completely fine. Maybe doing a window edit here is better, so you don't get some kid flying your box if they're desperate. But lucky enough, he gets away with that. Nobody really flies straight into his box. And at this point, after you've got your surge and you're kind of chilling, you don't need to worry about it too much. Apart from just looking for a few tags, you need to be trying to recycle a pad. 100% the best play in this lobby, if you've got one pad, 10 out of 10 games, is to try to recycle this pad here rather than using your own. Saving this pad for second moving or even double padding first moving is the best play 100% of the time. He kind of panics when somebody shoots him in the back, so he ends up just rotating with his own pad. Not necessarily the worst call, but it is the better play to try to recycle someone else's pad. Okay, now here he just takes his time and heals up, And one mistake is he kind of tunnel visions kills quite a lot. As you can see here, he's kind of chilling and just looking around for his other players low HP back in the storm. He's kind of chilling and making sure he's trying to find where they're at, and then just getting lost in the backside of storm, and he's running in really late. If there's anyone on this layer ahead of him, he's going to have a difficult job of rotating in here and probably get held a lot more. Lucky enough, there's nobody on this layer here, so he gets in completely for free. And again, this is what I mean, tunnel visioning in a second here. He's going to hop onto this guy's wall, gets him 1 HP, it's fair enough, trying to go for a box fight here. He does it in a safe way, blocks all of his angles, but at this point, he just overcommits way too hard. You can see this other guy's just running away, and as a general rule of thumb, in endgames, if someone reboxes more than once or twice, just stop chasing it. It's not worth it at that point, they probably can have nothing, and it's probably not worth going for the kill, or even as you go for a kill like this, you're on some of these edits, there's no coverage in terms of angles around you, and you're really late on your rotate. Honestly, if someone didn't place this pad right here, he probably would have died on this rotate, even though he's still got good heals and good mats, just because he's so backside and he's caught up back in the storm. Lucky enough, he's able to get a pad. It does a good job of landing on a high layer in a second, so he can heal up and kind of just play a little bit more passive and then go for a refresh when he needs it. This is a pretty nice play that he does here in a second, where he chops into this guy's tarp. Now, something is a long tarp like in Distant Solos, it is pretty free to just run through it as long as you cover your back. And then also here, he runs into a load of congestion on his layer, so what he does is just go towards the edge of storm, get onto a nice layer, somewhat higher up. Again, high layers are always going to be less congested, and then he just keeps on rotating forward and gets front side. At this point, you can start looking around for a kill. Honestly, I think looking for a kill below is probably the better call here. Instead, he does it in a bit of a scuffed way where he looks for a kill on somebody above him who's trying to hold him. It does work out in a second. It's not necessarily what I'd always recommend. You can see here, he commits into the box, goes for an angel. Not really the best at it. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't get one of those. This guy's pretty bad. Lucky enough, he's able to get the kill, and he's able to keep moving forward after getting that, and he gets some peppers as well. This is a good time to look for height, however, he doesn't really have the mats to play for it at all. Probably should have tried to conserve a little bit more mats earlier on when he actually got that refresh. Just tarp in very cheaply in wood, and then swap to hard mats as you get into the ender zone so you don't get scuffed. Good set of kills just by looking up on height, and now he's completely chilling in terms of loot. Obviously, it's somewhat lucky getting those refreshes there, but just by griefing height earlier allows him to get into a position where he can do well. And again, here his mats are so good, you can start looking up for height and thinking about the win condition, which probably is height in this game since there's still 5 players alive. At this point, when it's a 1v1 situation, all you need to do is try to bait the guy out with your AR and then wait for a pump shot. Don't try to get anything too fancy, like playing for heal off or something. It's never going to work. Just try to make sure you outdamage the guy in a pump trade-off, just like this, which is exactly what he does. Good AR tracking by him and a well-played cash scope, and I think he finishes in 10th place to get his first earnings, which is very impressive.